Welcome to Leading with Curiosity. Command and control leadership is dead. We interview leaders, entrepreneurs, and executive coaches challenging old paradigms and fostering cutting-edge leadership. Here's your host, certified executive coach, Nate Leslie.
All right, I'm taking this opportunity to do this intro of podcast episode with Guillaume Wiatr, originally from France, now based in Seattle. I'm flying high right now because I was pretty vulnerable in this episode. We used me as an example. Guillaume's the creator of Strategic Narrative, the business strategy consulting and coaching methodology for entrepreneurial leaders and professional service firms. He's looks young, but for like 30 years, he's worked with some big consulting firms. He's now on his own. He's founded a number of companies. He's worked with organizations like Microsoft and the Gates Foundation, AIG. Anyways, he walks me through some of his methodologies as I'm exploring this inflection point that I'm at in my career and my business. We took a gamble by using me as the example, and I have a feeling it's going to resonate with you, the listener. This is Guillaume Wiatr from Strategic Narrative, and we'll jump right in to what we mean by strategic narrative, his trademark methodology. Early on, there's a free assessment that we're going to link to in the show notes here if you're wondering where you're at in positioning your company or your team's vision and your strategy. This was super helpful for me. This was free advice, absolutely. Bit of coaching, bit of consulting. Enjoy. Guillaume, despite looking young, you've been at this work for around 3 decades, consulting with solopreneurs, with big firms, internally with some huge consulting companies. You're now on your own. And when I saw the opportunity to have you on the show, I was so curious about this idea of strategic narrative. Why don't we start right here? Welcome to Leading with Curiosity, and tell us a little bit about what you mean by strategic narrative.
Nate, thank you so much for having me today. Thanks for the warm welcome. Strategic narrative is the name of my methodology. It's a trademarked methodology that I created over the years. I think if I trace the beginning is probably about 15 years ago, and I had already started and co-founded 3 companies and was seeing some recurring patterns and started reflecting on how someone like me could achieve the kind of outcomes or results my desired future states, in an easier and better way. And I was interested at the time in the importance of storytelling in business. And for a long time, I did what most people do. Most of us use the word story and narrative interchangeably. Until one night, I was publishing. I'm a pretty prolific publisher in my email list, and I do a lot of YouTube videos. I was publishing a blog, and I thought, because English is not my first language, I should probably look into the difference between a story and a narrative in English. And first of all, could not find really a difference until I reflected on this and found that a narrative is a system of stories. A narrative is a way to look at things versus a story is more of a closed-ended unit, that typically has a beginning and an end. Typically in Hollywood movies, there's a beginning, there's struggle, and then there's a happy ending. A narrative is more of something that we co-construct also. A narrative is enacted. We talk about the narrative about society, the narrative about the planet, the narrative about your community, your city. And it turns out your business has a narrative, and I'm a business consultant. So I started exploring the importance of narratives in business and decided that my whole methodology would be about creating better narratives for organizations and for my clients. But while most people think that it's all predominantly or maybe only a marketing and communications outward-facing exercise, I see this a lot differently. Sure, it's marketing and communication, but it's much more holistic than that and deeper than this. In fact, in psychology, some therapists are trained in the practice of changing people's inner narratives. And I also do include this in my methodology. So, so why does this matter? Well, as entrepreneurs, we all have this idea of success. If I ask you where you see yourself in a few years, I would guess that you would, and we can maybe do the test in a moment. I would
Yeah.
guess you probably have an idea of, what kind of life you want, what kind of business you're dreaming of, what kind of revenue and what clients and so on, right?
Yeah.
But to get there, it can really be overwhelming, right? There's so many things you can do to get there, so many business practices. And these days, especially with the rise of digital channels and social media, we get just bombarded with solicitations like, oh, do this and you'll get more money. Oh, no, 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 do that. No, build that
Yeah.
funnel, work on yours. I mean, this is like the list is just endless. And what I find is that if you just take these solutions without a bit of intentionality and honesty with yourself, you're going to start building a narrative for your business that is not your own. It's not an authentic one.
Oh,
And
wow.
very soon you're going to get drained and exhausted and stressed and maybe end up broke. So the whole idea behind strategic narrative is to build that systems of stories that is really yours, that is the most efficient, that brings the highest and most efficient performance as possible, so that you get to your goals. Now,
So you and I, if I can just jump in,
yeah,
because
yeah, sure, sure,
you and
sure.
I have agreed to that I'm going to be a little vulnerable today, that we are
Yeah,
going to use me as an example. Selfishly, I'm going to learn. I'm
yeah,
getting a consultation from Guillaume, but the listener is going to be able to take the theory and
yeah,
listen to it in practical examples. And I have
yeah.
a feeling
Hmm.
that there's a deep connection here to core values and division, to what really matters to me,
Yeah.
and to not be pulled away by all those other distractions, and ends up one day I look around and I'm doing something that I didn't mean to do, or that some other influence led me to do as a core business, where this is from an inside out process, and it's not one story, it's a journey, it's a connection of stories to get me from where I am now to where I want to be. Am I reading your mail?
You are.
Okay.
Although you're not on my email list because I know that,
Not
but
yet.
you will be soon.
Yeah.
But no, you're completely right. It goes even further than that. I define a narrative as a combination of three things, and what you just alluded to is the language layer of a narrative. It's how we talk, it's the use of words, right? Which is
Yeah.
the typical traditional to think about a narrative. Hi, in any organization, we say, hey, let's change our narrative. Most people assume, yeah, this is going to be a communications exercise where you have to hire a writer, but a narrative is most importantly what happens when no one has even said a word. It's what is happening in your mind. It's your
Mm,
mindset. It's your
mm,
mindset.
mm,
It's how you see
mm.
things. The narrative, first of all, starts inside you. Right? So your mind
Yeah.
speaks, your heart speaks, your whole body speaks the narrative first of all. And then at the end of the process, there is a third layer. So I promised third layer. First one is language, words, what we say, the stories we tell to our colleagues, our clients, and so on. Second one was mindset, what happens inside. And the third one is what you do, is your actions, right? It's everything you do during your day, and the even some of the tools you
Mm.
use, right? So right now we're talking, I can see you on video, I see things in your background that signal a narrative to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if you go to a doctor's office, a lawyer's office, you will probably go through a process that is very much the narrative of the expert. You're not in control. They are in charge because they have deep and very specialized knowledge and expertise. So you rely on that knowledge to follow the process, and that's the narrative of the expert already there, and through the process without those experts even being in the room talking to you. So those three layers we're going to talk about.
You've got a great quote. People will pay for a story, but die for a narrative. Tell us about that.
I observe that when we in our society, we'll buy a story, we'll go to a movie, we'll buy somebody's book, um, we will gladly listen to somebody who has a good story to tell. And that story is a moment for us to reflect on who we are as a person. Sometimes we see ourselves in that story. Um, a narrative goes beyond and really touches your beliefs, as you were saying earlier. And if you think about some of the system stories and processes and mindset that form those really, really dominant narrative in our society and in business, human beings have this ability to survive thanks to them, but also die through them, right? So we will engage in wars and we will give our life because we believe certain things, and
Yeah.
because these things are sometimes manufactured, orchestrated, or constructed through narratives. In fact, science shows us that it's a theory, but probably the reason why our species is still going, where there's other species of sapiens, I'm referring to the sapiens species, is because of our ability to form those narratives and believe in imaginary things that may happen or not. And we are
Wow.
ready
Yeah.
to we're ready to form, to organize, and we're also ready to die. That's the big difference between a story and a narrative.
So a belief so strong in a future that hasn't even happened
Mhm.
yet that we're willing to go to great lengths to
Yeah, and
make it happen. Yeah.
I'm a perfect example of that. So I created 4 companies, and I can remember the moments in each of them where I almost literally died. Not sorry, figuratively died because my bank account was just so miserable, and my marriage was on the line, and my friendships were just deteriorated, and I put so much on the line to live through that narrative of the entrepreneurship. And with hindsight, probably that was not a very good narrative for me. I had not done the work that I did after that and that I now do with my clients, but
Yeah.
my entrepreneurship narrative was probably a little screwed up.
So
But
here's the segue. So here's what's at stake, right?
sounds good.
Literally life, marriage, family, career.
Yeah.
Um, so let's segue here. Let me hand over the mic a little bit. Where would you take me if this were an intake and we were meeting? I've done your self-assessment, which
Yep.
will link to at metahelm.com. I've done my self-assessment. I'm at this inflection point in my career here for the listener, going from individual practitioner
Hmm.
to this year. 2024 is about going big and going after bigger projects and building a team. So it's an interesting time for me to be having this conversation with you.
Yeah, and this is this particular situation you're in, Nate, is a typical example of what I help my clients with. Is getting rid of overwhelm, getting really clear with their path and what they should be doing as they're pivoting their business, transitioning to a new format, maybe, or completely
Mhm.
reinventing their business. Of course, obviously, launching new services or launching a new business altogether. So let me ask you this, Nate. Can you tell me a little bit about what's a little more about business wise? What transition are you looking to go into, to engage into in the near future?
So I last year I reached a level of PCC coach with the International Coach Federation, which is what we would call legit. I'm now in a group of thousands
Yes.
of peers around the world where
Mhm.
I've established myself through rigorous exam and a ton of hours coaching, right?
Mhm.
Almost 1,000 hours, individual hours coaching right now. Also have a practice as a leadership development facilitator. So groups where there is a bit more of a curriculum, whereas
Okay.
the one-to-one coaching, which I absolutely love both. I love living in both of those worlds as the individual practitioner. One of the things that suddenly worried me when I was doing my coach training years ago was, wait a second, I'm going back to being individual contributor. In other words,
Mm.
money for time. Because over the last 20 years, I have built a successful hockey development company where now I have a large team of coaches doing the work and I get to stay strategic and set the vision and support them. And I've
Mhm.
really loved that journey. So the
Hmm.
parallels are exact. I've gone from one private lesson in Central Park, New York City to now overseeing the development of thousands of 2,000 kids a year.
Hmm.
That's
Okay.
on the hockey side. Then I got into the executive coaching because I'm curious, I'm a lifelong learner. I was ready to take my commitment to being in service to others into
Hmm.
the business world in a bigger way. I joke I helped people's kids for 20 years and now I get to help the parents too. I get
Mm.
to add value there. And and when I say I had that moment of nervousness, I thought, okay, this one-to-one coaching doesn't scale in the same way, and I still want to be able to lead a team. And so here I am now with connections and network and hours under my belt and lots of water under the bridge, ready to now go after bigger, for example, have my first government contract where I can bring on a team of coaches. And now I get to coach the coaches and support them and help the client get exactly what they need. And I'm so excited that the client now gets to choose. One director might choose Nate, the other might choose one of my colleagues. So I'm in this now. I'm at a point where I actually get to scale this, which of course has financial benefit, of
Hmm.
course, and it moves into this model that I have replicated in the hockey world over 20 years. Does that help
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
describe
You
my inflection point here?
very, very good. That's very good context, and you use the word, the kind of the keyword to me here as I'm listening to you is the word scaling. So you've already successfully scaled the coaching,
Yeah.
hockey coaching business. Now you want
Yeah.
to see you can do that for leadership coaching business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's turn to the future for just a moment here.
Mhm.
Let's imagine that it's 3 years from today, Nate, and you and I are talking again. Maybe I'm on your podcast, or maybe we're
Yeah.
just having coffee in Vancouver,
Yeah.
and you're very happy. What has happened in those 3 years that makes you so happy?
That have grown a roster, a team of coaches
Mhm.
so that we can scale our impact.
Mm.
That we move for the client, we move from helping one client at a time to being able to really impact an entire organization.
Mhm.
That I've surrounded myself with a team of like-minded people because our business, whether it's you consulting or me coaching or development, it can be lonely. Those are my words, not yours, right? But it is a, it is an us and them, which is amazing. I love to come in and out of organizations, right? And be able to help in all different industries. But this idea of, as a business owner, I haven't had many peers. And I feel like this is a chance to be able to provide employment opportunity
Mhm.
for some people, even with way more experience than me, because the most experienced coaches might go to the highest level leader in the organization that we're with. I can offer something to somebody, someone that wants to be able to show up and coach. I can
Mhm.
offer opportunities for them and learn along the way. I mean, what better balance is there than that? Yeah. So that's happiness 3 years from now.
So I heard clients roster. I think I missed one because I took a pen and piece of paper. The second aspect is peers, and I think I missed one in the middle. Can you maybe you remember where it was?
Well, peers, and then I'm learning
Learning.
that we're able to have bigger impact on a larger number of leaders
Gotcha.
inside an organization and actually, be able to
Mhm.
make positive change organization wide.
Okay.
Leader one-to-one can do that, right?
Yes.
Because we're helping leaders be more effective
Okay.
and scaling to a larger roster can have even a multiplier effect, right?
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So earlier you told me what it sounds like makes you think like you can be successful at this because you have previous experience. Now I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you the other question, which is what makes you what could get in the way? What do you feel like could get in the way of that success story to unfold the way you want?
As I was taking the leap, starting the book that I'm in the process of writing, and I'm telling the world now that
Ah,
I'm writing
you're
my
writing
first book,
you're writing a
right?
book.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
For leaders who have been through similar journeys to me. as I was writing last night, I was thinking about what is making this possible, and it's to dream big and why not me? And so, of course, the thing that's getting in the way of that previous to that is, well, that's for somebody else to do with more experience, with not 1,000 hours, but 2,000 hours. Oh, I got to be an MCC before I can do that. And
Mm,
I'm letting myself know that that's a bunch of garbage because what better opportunity than to bring on people with incredible amounts of experience? So the same thing that I'm letting go of to make it possible is it's the same thing, yeah, that would otherwise be getting in the way. It's that classic imposter syndrome, right?
mhm, mhm. And you're discovering this for the first time through your book, or is this something that you've felt before?
That's a great question. I felt before and I've known it, but as I'm starting to write, my energy level is just spiking. I got coaching the other day on it, and as I talk about it and do it and get my fingers moving on the keyboard, I'm like, F yeah, it's time. It's
It's time.
time to like take
Yeah.
that position.
Mm,
And otherwise, the opposite of that is sort of continuing on looking for one client at a time, which is also extremely rewarding. I love coaching, right?
mm,
And I have so benefited in my life from the coaching practice and working one to one with clients.
mhm,
But I think I'm taking action steps, and it comes back to this idea of why not me? And I have a few friends in mind, that one I value deeply who's grown a multi-billion dollar business, and I'm best friends, and we have equal respect for one another.
mhm,
And he dreamed super big and just went and did it. And he's kind of like, why not you, Nate? When are you going to dream super big and go and do it? Which I have been dreaming big and going to do it for 20 years, but now it's like the dreams are getting bigger because the impact I want to have is greater. And so he's a good guiding light for me in that why not me? Why not us? Why wait for somebody else to do it?
So it sounds like despite the fact that what gets in the way is the imposter syndrome, you're getting coaching, you're engaged in a book writing process. So do you feel like that's handled, or do you feel like there's still something missing there?
Well, it's proving the point in getting coaching and talking about it, which I feel is clearly what's happening right now with you and I, and I'm declaring this publicly to the world. You're just taking small micro actions towards this desired future, which is the exact impact I want to have with thousands of leaders around the world. Is that I'm witnessing. So what's happening through in walking the walk, in receiving coaching, in
Mhm,
being vulnerable with you, in talking about what I'm dreaming about, I'm literally moving towards it happening.
mhm, mhm,
What an interesting position in a pitch when you're talking to a potential client to say, and they say, what is the impact that you can have?
mhm,
When you've literally experienced it yourself, you can say, like, this is real. The impact that we can have is extremely real, and I know because I'm going through it right now myself.
mhm. That makes a lot of
Sounds like a
sense.
narrative.
It is a narrative. It is a narrative that I wish more of our colleagues or practitioners would really embrace. We hear so many times that we have to pitch something, we have to present, we have to give information and so on. But I think the best way to um, to grow and scale our businesses is by just demonstrating the expertise that we have. And the first thing we should be doing as coaches and consultants. I mean, it may sound like a like a very very simple thing, obvious thing to say, but it's to listen. Is to listen.
Oh, of
It's not
course,
our
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not our job to come in and give answers right away in the I could call it a sales process. If
yeah.
this is a podcast, this is not a sales process, but still, um, what you're experiencing is a sample here
And
of
and 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 what I'm experiencing from you is this idea of moving towards a desired vision.
yeah.
And there's a listener saying, "Oh, I see what's happening here. I can hear Nate getting excited about this. I can help hear him being honest about what he wants and doesn't want and what keeps him up at night.
Mhm.
So how much cooler is that than a pitch as well, right? Someone's listening that says, "Oh, maybe I should lean into this
It
support."
Yeah, it's effortless. It's effortless.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you filled out the assessment, and I have the results here. It's 12 questions, and for each question you get to pick four different items or levels. And in my assessment, there is a one of the practices in my model is called perspective development, and another one is meaningful publication. So I'm just going quickly through my notes here, but
Mhm.
it sounds like, so for meaningful content publication, you picked the level 4, which is the max highest level, and you said, and my definition of level 4 is your content publication practice is a long life ministry and in service of love to humanity. It is how I cultivate expertise and understand my mission. It helps me grow authentically and build a stronger business. So
Mm,
it sounds
mm.
like you have experience there. That's good. Is this and so you're writing a book, which I didn't know before getting on this call. So now I see why you gave yourself kind of this, in the self-assessment here, right there. And then right next to it, there is something called perspective development. And on this one, you self-assessed at a level 2. There's only 4 level, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll
Yep.
read for our listeners level 2.
Yep.
And you said, so it says, I started to identify areas of expertise and focus, but my perspective is still not well defined and or authentically unique. I share some insights and knowledge, but they are not always my own or a reinterpretation of somebody else's.
Mm.
Just for context, why does perspective development matter in our professional services businesses? Is because it's really how there's many reasons. First of all, it's how we connect to our creative energy. It's also very much how we differentiate with our colleagues. Call them competitors if you want, but I prefer the term colleague. Um, and I always like to say that, a perspective is a good reason to disagree with them, which is a healthy thing.
Mhm.
Because when you have a unique perspective and when you're able to tap into that unique and authentic, um, set of beliefs that you have, Nate, as a coach, that's probably when we will get the most value out of you and now out of your team. So really what you're doing there is the narrative around your book is not just a marketing and publication exercise, which most people think about this. And when
Yeah.
we think about this, the problem is that we will judge the outcome of publishing a book through the number of reviews and the number of likes and the number of sales and so on. And to me, that's just one tiny visible piece of the iceberg. There's much greater value in really going through this book process, through this exercise of developing your perspective.
I
Um,
I really like what you're saying there, and here's a couple examples, and I think it's one of the reasons I'm writing the book. No, I know it's one of the reasons I'm writing the book because at the end of it,
mhm,
my position on leadership is going to be so much more clear to me that I
mhm,
can speak even more concisely about it. One. Number two, I was doing work for a mentor with a big global company the other day, and I was working on his behalf, and I made sure that that was well known, right, as a sort of an independent subcontractor.
mhm.
And I said at one point, as Mark likes to say, etc. Mark is my mentor.
Okay.
And after somebody said, I'd like to know what Nate has to say. And I
Ah,
loved it because in the moment, I know this, what we're
yeah.
talking about, but this conversation, this book, this journey I'm on is solidifying it, right? Now it's a little bit loose. In that moment, I thought, well, I could speak on Mark's behalf because I'm doing this work for him. I'm running his program, right?
Mhm, mhm,
But I just love that, Nate. Like, you're here. I want to know what you have to say about this.
mhm.
And that's the point, right? And if I look at all these influential leadership books above me on my desk, every one of them I've read, my life as a professional athlete, my coach training, my life as a teacher, my master's in education, the ups and downs of all of that. that is my unique presence that no one in this program I'm in right now of writing a book. It's just no one else can ever write your book. And I love that. They're like, don't worry that someone else has written one that inspired you and you think, oh, I can't write that book because it's already been written. No, no, no.
Mm.
Guillaume, Nate have a unique position in the world because of as every leader does, because of an infinite number of moments in our lives that have influenced who we are and who
Mm.
we're in the process of becoming. Is that is that uh that correlate with this idea of perspective development?
Yeah, that is exactly. I mean, I was paying attention to how you describe it with your own words and with that story, by the way. See how the narrative is a system of stories. Like you shared one story that happened to you, not very long ago. You're coaching something, somebody says, I want to know what Nate has to say. That's a
Yeah.
story.
Okay.
The beginning,
Okay.
there
Yeah.
was maybe a moment of, and then an end. What did you say, by the way? What did you answer? What was your answer?
It I said
The
thank you.
moment.
I
Okay.
said thank you. Yeah, yeah. I said thank you. I will do that. And it didn't feel right coming out of my mouth, Mark likes to say. Then just if you believe it, just say it, he said. It was the best way to learn is to teach, right? So when you're running
100%.
a development program, it's not a lecture series, it's interactive. Here's 5 minutes on theory. Now go coach each other and make meaning and then teach it back to the group. What do you think? What are the takeaways, right?
So that's another principle then, and that's in my also in my marketing module and sales module, authentic outreach. I think so many people could benefit in our professions could benefit from teaching more. I teach a free workshop at the last Thursday of the month. It's part of my group program, and I open it to the public. There's so much greatness and value. I learn so much every time.
I bet you do. Where
But
can people find that? Where can people find that?
That's on my website. Also, I announce it on my email list and on LinkedIn. If people want to follow me on LinkedIn, it's
Okay.
free to attend, seminar every last Thursday of the month. But back to your question here, yes, you described exactly with your own word what relates to perspective development. There's one idea I'd like to, and I'll move away a little bit from coaching mode here for the interest of time and be a little
Yeah.
more in the consulting hat and
Yeah.
offering some additional solutions here.
Thanks for acknowledging. Thanks for acknowledging the difference, by the way, that you're about to take off the curious hat and you have an idea that I need to know.
Yes, I wanna
That might be a nice next step here, and then we'll move towards a close. So go ahead.
that sounds good. With perspective development, many of us wait for the right time to write that book. And I didn't ask you if you had published previous books and if you had done other blogging or writing. So maybe you have. But
Blogged for years about a different topic about hockey, and now here we are. Yeah, yeah,
you have previous experience, so that's great.
yeah.
But I just want to say this for our listeners too, who have been thinking about a book or have engaged in a book process that was really there's very solid, strong, but very tough, and they end up with the book being, yeah, it's okay, but it's not exactly what I wished you had been. Really exploring that your perspective really happens through smaller, it doesn't have to be a whole book. It can be smaller moments of exploration
Right.
and really lowering your bar through very gentle, easy, authentic publication can really, really actually accelerate the process. Um, so
Is this an example? So I believe I love something in Lencioni's Five Dysfunctions of a Team, and it connects to something that somebody else wrote, and the way I process that and turn it into one paragraph of kind of my own unique voice is clarifying that perspective, and it's a short blog post, and I've taken two appreciated ideas and kind of made it my own. Is that a sort of a basic, simple example of what I might do there?
yes, it could be that. And another method I have been personally experimenting for a while now is so the principles are, as soon as you have that thought, capture it because it will fade, it will go away very, very soon. So you
Yeah.
can write it, but these days what I'm doing is that I turn on Zoom, I hit record as soon as I have this idea,
Okay.
and I tell myself, okay, I'll do one take. Maybe I get 2 to 3, beginning of the video, and I just record a video. And the video typically lasts, a minute, 3 minutes, maybe to up to sometimes like I catch myself. I end up talking about this thing for 18 minutes. This little idea that just crossed my mind,
Mm.
18 minutes. And I capture this immediately and then I post it on YouTube on my channel. So if you go to my channel,
I've seen those. Yeah. Okay.
there's a
Yeah.
couple of hundreds of those. And this is what I call seed content. The universe planted a seed in your mind and you're acknowledging the seed and you're like, what can I do with that seed idea? Let me plant it. Let me put it in the soil, metaphorically here, because we're
Yeah.
talking story and narrative.
Yeah.
Let me plant in this in the soil of content and put that on a tape it on a short video and see what it does. And then look at it metaphorically grow. Maybe a lot of people are gonna like this video and comment and give you some likes. That's cool, but what does it do with you? Are you getting even more
Yeah.
excited with this idea? Could you pick up this idea next and turn it into a written piece and maybe a more structured piece? Maybe that becomes a chapter of your book because very easily it can get to 1,000 to 2,000, 3,000 words. And
Yeah.
it's growing and it becomes more structured. And then because we're in business, then the next stage is, well, you monetize this idea. You turn it into a chapter of your book, you sell your book, but maybe you do a seminar around this idea. You launch a coaching program around this idea. You have a package. I mean, then the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
But very, very, very much approaching perspective development from that design, that's what really design thinking is about. Like prototyping the minimally viable form of a product, which in our profession looks like one sentence or two sentences on the back of of the
Okay.
napkin. That's what the idea. That's where I really encourage all of us and all our listeners to start. I just described something that I call the greenhouse method to fearless publishing, and that's this was not rehearsed, Nate. Obviously, we didn't plan on talking about this, but
Yeah.
this is my one of my upcoming free to attend webinars. If you can't make it, there will be a recording, so you can ask for it. But really
I like that.
engage as smoothly as possible. Um, if anyone here listening to this podcast is still doubting the benefit of writing, publishing, exploring your expertise, keep in mind that if you claim to build an expertise business, if the word expert has come across your language, your vernacular, or the vernacular of your clients or audience to describe who you are, this is what your business model is about. You are paid to share your knowledge and your ideas. So,
Mm.
so give a
Mm.
sample, go to the ideas gym every day, publish, post on YouTube. People tell me, okay, yeah, but I already write a lot. I'm like, great, where is it? It's all on my notebook or on my hard drive or Google Drive. Like, well, that's not publishing, that's writing. That's different. In the word
This,
publishing, there is public.
yeah, I like this for a couple of reasons. I love. I'm just going to challenge the word for expert, just for the listeners.
Sure.
I love this line. There are no experts, just people in practice,
Mm,
and so authority
I love it too.
is one thing. But you just said go to the ideas gym. What do you do at the gym? You're working on development. So we are developing with this methodology, this idea. We're moving towards an even greater authority in our space
Mhm.
through our own ideas. And I love that you just used the word gym right now because last year I finally gave myself permission to take my kids to school for 9, take my dog on a run on the seawall in Vancouver for
Mhm.
25, 30 minutes and start my day, at closer to 10. But every single run, I have a clarity and an idea. It's like my meditation. That's my ideas gym. And so I was just picturing this habit of coming in the door with that idea and recording it, transcribing it, writing it down, creating the video. That's not only have I given myself permission because it's my health, it's my number one, big rock and core value, but it's also where my best ideas come from. So the fact that you called it ideas, Jim, I just love that. What do you make of
I
that?
love it. I didn't put it together, but I have to share that uh, most of my ideas that I care about come from my morning active walk. I have an active walk every morning, and as soon as I come back to my office, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to write this down.
Right? Right?
I also record it on my phone, but that's when it shows up.
It shows up because that's presence, right? You're in the moment. You live in Seattle, I live here. We live in beautiful places. We get to
Blessed with
whether
that.
feel the rain or see the green, and those ideas come. That's mindfulness right there, right? Where our brain is doing all sorts of things that gives us one idea where you think, I can't believe I hadn't thought of this before, and I better get home quicker, I'm going to lose it.
Yeah, and see, yet again, I would just want to circle back to the first question you asked me in the intro, what is strategic narrative? And I explained quickly that a narrative is different. It's a system of stories.
Yeah.
Here is another story that adds to your system, which
Mhm.
is your narrative, which is how do you generate ideas, and the story you tell yourself about health as well. I want to be. You've got. I see that you're an athlete too, so I see that you've got system in place. You've got a recurring thing, and you've got habits that you're constantly working on, right? So
Yeah.
now I want to start to closer to 10, and want to have this opportunity to exercise first.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
another story. So keep that in mind, everyone.
I like
Nate,
it.
your business narrative, and to scale your new business, your new venture, work on that system of stories one by one. Today we just covered perspective development because that's your current focus.
Yeah.
But look around. There's a whole universe of them waiting for you to decide if they are the right ones or not.
I like that. That's a great place for us to leave it selfishly. That I have a big takeaway there, that those little moments that I'm so sure of and my energy heightens,
Mhm.
that's that unique perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guillaume, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed putting myself out there in the service of our listeners and getting a chance to see what you do. It's powerful, and I love the blend of coaching and consulting. Can you just tell the listeners again where they can find you?
So you just go to my website, metahelm.com, Metahelm.
.com, and that's where I quickly found the self-assessment where people can
Yeah,
take and get a copy of, right?
it's right there under strategic narrative. You will find some details about the methodology if you're interested in reading more. But if you're an action person, you can just take the assessment right away, and then as needed, if you'd like, I'll be happy to follow up. To follow up with you, and we can discuss more what your results look like if you go to my website. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm pretty present on LinkedIn, so if you want to follow me there, I'm like I said, I post a bunch of seed ideas all the time. See how they help and resonate with people.
All right. Well, we'll make sure to link to all of that in the show notes. And I'm
Sounds
so
good.
glad I found you. Thanks for being a guest.
My pleasure, Nate.
Thanks for listening to Leading with Curiosity. Please share, follow, and rate the show so that other leaders can make positive change in the world. Connect with Nate at nateleslie.ca. And remember, the brain behaves very differently when encouraged to think rather than told to listen.